There once was a young man from London who decided to take an evening stroll. He had just turned 21 and felt invincible, ready for anything that came his way. It was a habit of his to explore every part of the city, searching for adventure or maybe just a good story to tell. That night, fog hung heavy in the air, making the gaslight lamps seem even dimmer than usual. Cobblestones glistened under the dim light and reflected in puddles that lay like scattered jewels in the streets. Each step echoed with a hollow ring, as if the very stones were keeping watch over their silent city. He walked past dimly lit pubs where laughter and music spilled out onto the pavement. Each note a tiny hammer blow against the night's thick silence. He walked past houses with shuttered windows, their faces turned away from the darkness, hiding whatever secrets they held within. As he rounded a corner, he spotted something unusual. Tucked away in an unassuming alley, almost hidden in the gloom, was a long brick wall. It was covered in ivy that reached up towards the darkness like grasping fingers. And there, almost blending with the shadows, was a door painted a strange shade of green. Something about it drew him closer. The color seemed to glow softly in the darkness, like a beacon in the fog. As he stood there hesitantly, unsure whether to knock or turn back, the doorknob began to shimmer. Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, he reached out and touched it. In an instant, everything changed. The dank, narrow alley vanished, and he found himself standing in front of a massive oak door. The door was no longer green, but a deep, rich mahogany. It was adorned with intricate carvings of flowers and vines that seemed to writhe and twist before his eyes. But the most captivating sight was behind the door. What was once a gloomy alley now revealed a garden. And it wasn't just any garden. It was a place of enchantment, bathed in golden sunlight. Flowers in every color imaginable burst forth from the ground, their petals unfurling in a silent symphony of life. Marble fountains gurgled merrily, their waters sparkling in the light. Exotic birds with plumage like jewels perched on fountain edges, chirping melodies that seemed to echo the joy in his own heart. There were paths that meandered through flower beds, inviting him to explore this hidden paradise. And in the distance, beyond the riot of colors and sounds, he could see a manor house, its windows glowing like watchful eyes. The sight filled him with a sense of wonder and awe. It was as though he had stumbled upon a secret known only to the earth and the sky. A place where time seemed to slow down and the worries of the outside world melted away. It felt like a dream. Yet he could feel the rough bark of the ancient oak tree beneath his hand, smell the sweet nectar of unknown flowers, and hear the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. In this enchanted garden, surrounded by nature's vibrant tapestry, he found a sense of peace he had never known before. He wanted to stay there forever. But as the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the garden, a sense of urgency tugged at him. He knew that this magical place was tied to the rhythm of the sun, and soon it would disappear, taking with it the wonders he had witnessed. With a heavy heart, he turned towards the oak door, hoping to find a way back to the familiarity of the London streets. As he stepped through the door, the garden receded into the background, becoming a distant memory. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in the dank, narrow alley. The green door was once again unassuming, almost blending with the shadows. The magic was gone, leaving behind only the echo of birdsong in his ears and the scent of exotic flowers clinging faintly to his clothes. With a deep breath, he turned away from the alley, determined to hold the memory of the garden close to his heart, a secret treasure tucked away in his mind. As he walked back into the foggy streets of London, he couldn't help but glance over his shoulder at the spot where the alley had been. But all he saw was a dark, empty space between the buildings. The adventure he had sought that evening had taken a turn he hadn't anticipated. Instead of a thrilling tale to tell, he now carried a secret that whispered of magic and wonder in a world that often felt too ordinary. Back in his room, surrounded by the familiar objects of his everyday life, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something extraordinary had been taken from him. The memory of the garden, with its vibrant colors and ethereal beauty, seemed like a half-remembered dream. Was it real or a figment of his imagination? Had he truly stepped into another world, or was he losing his sanity? The questions swirled in his head, but there were no answers to be found. Days turned into weeks, and the image of the garden faded, becoming a cherished but distant memory. He tried to fill his life with the familiar routines, seeking solace in the everyday. But a part of him remained in that magical place, yearning for the return of the green door. Years passed, and he became a well-known author, his stories filled with fantastical elements that hinted at the world's unseen wonders. But none of his readers knew that his greatest adventure had not been written in ink on paper, but etched in the chambers of his heart. Now much older, his hair streaked with grey, and his face lined with the stories of years gone by, he found himself drawn back to that same foggy London street. He was a renowned author now, his stories echoing with magic and adventure that had captured the hearts of readers worldwide. Yet, despite his fame, a melancholic air clung to him, a quiet sadness that seemed at odds with his celebrated tales. As he made his way through the labyrinthine streets, the fog swirling round his feet, he couldn't shake off the feeling that something was missing. His latest book had just been published to great acclaim, and critics were hailing it as his magnum opus. But in the depths of his soul, he felt a profound emptiness. He found himself standing before the old brick wall, the very one that had concealed the entrance to the magical garden so many years ago. The wall seemed unchanged, as stoic and unyielding as time itself. And there, almost hidden in the shadows, was the door. It was the same shade of green, muted and unassuming, as if it had been deliberately camouflaged to blend into the gloom. As he stared at the door, memories flooded back, the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, the echo of distant laughter, the whisper of wind through dead leaves. It was as if the wall itself was breathing, each inhale and exhale a testament to the passage of time. He hesitated, his gloved hand hovering over the doorknob. A myriad of emotions flickered across his face: wonder, longing, apprehension. Should he open the door and risk losing himself in a world that might no longer be his own? Or should he turn away and let the memory of the garden remain untouched, a relic of a bygone era? The rain began to fall, soft at first, then with increasing intensity, each drop hitting the pavement, a tiny hammer blow against the silence. The old man flinched, not from the rain, but from the realization that the precious moments slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. The garden, his sanctuary, beckoned to him, promising solace and peace. Could he resist its call any longer? As if in answer to his internal struggle, the door shimmered, its green surface rippling like water in a gentle breeze. It was a silent invitation, a beckoning for him to step through and lose himself in the labyrinth of blooming wonders once more. With a deep breath, he reached out, his fingers tracing the intricate carvings on the door's surface. It was cool to the touch, yet it radiated a warmth that seeped into his bones. For a moment, the world narrowed to the simple act of touching wood, the feel of rain on his skin, the sound of raindrops drumming on the pavement. And then he stepped through.